Hello everyone, Mr. Price here with the continuation of your read aloud. We are reading Because of Mr. Terupt by Rob Boyer, and we're nearing the end of the book. Where we left off, Mr. Terupt had had his brain surgery, and it was kind of wait and see for how things worked out for him at that point. However, some of the students seemed to have more positive outcomes developing. Anna seemed to have found a way for her and Danielle's family to connect when she offered to pray with them at Mr. Trump's surgery. Jeffrey returned home and found his mom waiting for him at the door. I think that's kind of signifying that she's working past the depression that resulted after the death of Michael. Additionally, Jessica and her mom seem to have that heart-to-heart, and they seem to work things out. Jessica's mom told her that it wasn't her fault when she and Jessica's father divorced, and that seemed to mean a lot to Jessica. She mentioned, being on the verge of tears, so good for them. Anyways, we are now at the month of June, and we begin with a chapter from Jessica. Final act, scene 1. Welcome to the last day of school, where there's music and movies and games, singing and laughing and smiles all around, cakes and cookies and fun for everyone. At least, this is what the last day of school is supposed to encompass. Ours didn't. Crying wasn't anything I had ever experienced on the last day of school, but crying was what I felt like doing. And I know I wasn't the only one. We had held tremendous hope for our teacher to be with us by the end of the school year. But he wasn't. I kept wondering about the Mr. Terupt I don't know. I've thought a lot about it since that day in the waiting room. Everyone likes Mr. Terupt, but nobody's that close to him. Except for Miss Newberry, but even she hopes to get closer. Part of me thinks that it's not just him they're all concerned about, but us too, because they know we're the ones who are really close to him. But how can I even say that or think that when I don't truly know him? Maybe it's because it doesn't matter how well we know him. We still love him. I haven't talked to anyone else about this, not even my mom. I want to, but what's the point? He's not here. Mr. Terupt didn't make it. And a chapter from Alexia. I went to see Teach last week and was like, the nurses said they were doing something and that I had to come back. I was mad, but I didn't really think anything was up. Now I'm beginning to wonder if maybe something's going on. Mrs. Williams and Miss Newberry are definitely acting strange. Like, Mrs. Williams is way too perky, humming to herself and talking with silent nods to Miss Newberry, who's been poking her head into our room one too many times today. I'm beginning to wonder if Teach woke up, and like they've been keeping it secret so that they can surprise us. I'm telling you, something's up. And Danielle. Dear God, I don't want to be mad at you, but I am. You haven't listened to my prayers. If you had, Mr. Terupt would be here. We need him. Why didn't you give him back to us? Anna. Oh, sorry, this is a chapter from Anna. Mrs. Williams makes me mad. Our whole class is feeling terrible except for her. She seems happy, walking around with that bounce in her step. I even heard her humming at one point, but she quickly stopped when she realized I had noticed. Is she really that happy to get this year over with? Then the thought hit me. Does she know something that we don't? Chapter from Luke. No, Mr. Terupt. Suddenly, things changed drastically for me. I'd kept believing that he was badly hurt and would recover, but now that the year is over, the thought of him not making it seems very real. Jeffrey. I don't know what's going on with Mrs. Williams. This is the worst day of the year, and I see her wink at Anna. What's the matter with you? I want to scream at her. I don't care if she's the principal. I want to yell at her, but I keep all my anger inside. Don't you dare wink at me, lady. Jessica. Final act, scene 2. All day long I fought back tears, and now tears streamed down my face. I couldn't believe it. Mr. Terupt made it. He was here. He was okay. We rushed out of our seats, our bodies pressed together in a giant class hug. I missed you guys, he said. We missed you too, we shouted. I love you guys, he said, bending down to our level. He looked at each one of us and hugged us one by one. He hugged me. I love you, Mr. Terupt, I said. The words danced out of my mouth. Love you too, Jessica. We hugged some more, and then Mr. Terupt spotted Peter. Peter hadn't been part of the hug. He was still sitting in his seat, probably too scared to move. Too frightened to think what Mr. Terupt might do or say to him. Mr. Terupt stood up and walked over to Peter. We watched, and he taught us like he did every day we were with him. He showed us how to forgive. A chapter from Luke. Mrs. Williams spoke up. Boys and girls, I do have one announcement before I leave you with your teacher. She smiled. The school board has decided that next year will be an experimental year. We're going to try looping in one classroom. What's that? Anna asked. Looping is when a class and the teacher move on to the next grade together, Mrs. Williams said. It got quiet fast. Real quiet. Hold your breath quiet. Was everybody wondering the same thing? I looked around. Jessica smiled and nodded at me. Boys and girls, next year, your class will be looping, Mrs. Williams said. With Mr. Terupt? Anna asked. Yes, Mr. Terupt answered. We jumped and screamed and hooted and hollered. I saw Mrs. Williams heading toward the door. I ran over to her. Mrs. Williams, I said as she was about to leave. She turned around. Yes, Luke? Thank you, I said. Then I felt a sudden quietness behind me. The rest of my class stopped and took notice of Mrs. Williams. Thank you, Mrs. Williams, voices called. She looked at Mr. Terupt. I was close enough to hear her say, There's magic in this room with you here, Mr. Terupt. Magic. She hugged him and left. Alexia. Teach made it. He showed up on the last day with no warning. It was the biggest surprise ever. Everyone ran over and hugged him. Then Teach went over and hugged Peter. I liked Teach so much when he did that. It made me think of the day he took me out in the hall. Teach knew how to be nice. He didn't say one thing and do another. After things calmed down, I went up to him. I've been being nice now. I said, you'd be proud. You've always been nice, Lex, he said. Just figured out how to show it. But you're right. I'm very proud of you. I can't wait till next year, I said. I can't wait either. I missed you. Then I hugged him again. I love you, Teach, I said. I love you too. So now it's wait till next year. And I can't. And Jeffrey. Sometimes school can actually be great. And next year's going to be just that, because Terupt's back. I didn't think he was going to make it. I thought he was going to die like Michael did. I tried to help Michael and it didn't work. I don't know if I helped Terupt at all, but he made it. I ran and got help when he fell down in the snow. I ran inside and got the nurse and made them call 911. And got Mrs. Williams. I did that. Was that enough? I watched Terupt hug Peter. He didn't blame anyone. Jessica told me that it wasn't my fault that Michael died. Maybe you just do the best you can because you can't control what happens in the end. I guess it's okay to hope for things. Sometimes it works out. Slowly, I'm getting my mom and dad back. There isn't silence between us anymore, though they still don't talk to each other very much. Mom is out of her pajamas, but never out of the house. That's okay for now. She's starting to try to get better, like me and Dad. I hope things get better between them. I miss my brother, but I'm real glad we got Terupt back, and I think I've found some reason for all this. I never would have been the one to break the silence between me and Mom, and me and Dad, if it weren't for Terupt's accident. I wanted so bad to tell him how much I loved him. I didn't know if I was going to get the chance when he was in that coma. And this, uh, and this, and that was when I knew I didn't want to miss the chance with my parents. So I broke the silence. I'm glad to. I'm happy. And a chapter from Anna. The last day turned out to be a great day. Mr. Terupt made it. I've never felt so happy. My throat, my heart, my belly, they all burned with happiness and probably relief, too. And then we found out about this looping thing, and I felt the good hurt inside all over again. Bus 9 is now loading. The call came over the speakers. See you soon, Mr. Terupt, I said. I ran over and gave him another quick hug. Have a good summer. You too, Anna. And Mr. Terupt, I looked up at him and he looked down at me. I think Miss Newberry might be interested in you. In case you're interested. He smiled back. Matchmaker Anna, thanks for the tip. Bus 9. Last call for Bus 9, the loudspeaker announced. I hurried out of room 202 with my head held high. I never made it to Bus 9, though. I got downstairs to the lobby and ran into Mom and Charlie. Hey, kiddo, Charlie said. Hey, guys. I said, are you here to pick up Danielle, too? She's still upstairs. I barely got those words out of my mouth before I saw the answer to my question. Danielle's mother walked into the lobby. She spotted us right away. Hi, Mrs. Roberts, I said, finding no small amount of courage. Would you like me to go upstairs and get Danielle for you? Not needed. Danielle came through the stairwell door and entered the lobby. She took a second to look at everyone. Then she and I exchanged a knowing glance, bracing ourselves for whatever came next. There would be no disappointments on this day. It was a day of happiness and celebration. Hi, Mrs. Roberts, Mom said, offering her hand to shake. I'm Terry Adams, and this is my daughter Anna. We didn't meet properly at the hospital. We'd love to have you and Danielle come over this afternoon, maybe for a cup of coffee or tea, and some hanging out time for the girls. The ball lay in Mrs. Roberts' court now. I let my breath out when I saw her shake my mom's hand. Please, call me Susan, she said. Danielle and I would be happy to come over. She glanced at Danielle, who nodded excitedly, but without holding the shock on her face. Then Mrs. Roberts looked at Charlie. Mr. Terupt came into the lobby at some point during all this and gave Danielle and me a thumbs up sign. It was as if he knew the whole story. Did he? We waved goodbye to the best teacher in the whole world. There are just a couple little tiny chapters left, but I don't have time in this video to finish it, so part 2 is going to be right after this.